What's going on, everybody? It's Mr. Do-It-All, and today we're going to be discussing the Washington Redskins, my fourth and final team in the NFC East, as we continue on with our 2017-2018 NFL season preview. Next division we will be doing after this division will be the NFC North, which includes the Packers, Bears, Vikings, and Lions, a division that we all know is probably run by the Green Bay Packers. So jumping into the Washington Redskins here, who I think are a sleeper team that no one's really given a lot of respect to. Like I said, every team in the NFC East does battle each other very hard, tough games. Everybody in the NFC East, I believe, had some great drafts, and all the Redskins did was improve, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So let's go ahead and look at some things some offseason moves that they did this past offseason. They re-signed their head coach to a multi-year contract extension. They brought back Vernon Davis. They signed Terrell McClain from the Dallas Cowboys and brought in Terrell Pryor, a big physical receiver, to give Kirk Cousins, who they franchise tagged again, to give him a big body to throw to. Now, Terrell Pryor did have a breakout year last year for the Cleveland Browns. First full season as a wide receiver starting. It'll be interesting to see what happens as he progresses more. He's a little bit of an older guy. Still learning the position, you can say, but I mean, he gets to go head-to-head every day with Josh Norman in practice. So, he's obviously learning the game. But yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins getting franchise tagged again for the second straight year. They have not yet been able to come to a contract extension. I don't know if they will. Kirk Cousins seems like he doesn't really want to be there. I think his heart is set on San Francisco for some reason. Getting with Kyle Shanahan and getting with John Lynch, who is rebuilding that team. Which is very interesting because I think the Redskins have a very solid offensive team. They have the second or third best offensive line in the NFC East, a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. The only problem is they can't really run the ball effectively, but you don't really need to when you have Kirk Cousins. I mean, he did put up, I believe, 40-plus points on the Packers in a game in which the wind was blowing crazy. But yeah, looking at their overall depth chart here, they have Kirk Cousins starting. Robert Kelly right now is the starter. They have one of the top tight ends in the league with Jordan Marine, a very fast, shifty slot receiver in Jamison Crowder. And they're going to rely on Josh Doctson last year, their first-round pick out of TCU last year, who was hurt most of the year. So we'll see how that goes. They have one of the best left tackles in the game in Trent Williams. And everybody else, they play as a solid, cohesive unit on the offensive line as long as nobody misses time because of injury. It's one of the big issues with every team in the NFL is injuries. Don't want to see it happen. Would love for every team to get through a full season fully healthy so we can see everybody at their best. But we never know. On the defensive side of the ball, they do have room for improvement, but they have a solid defense, in my opinion. They did just lose Trent Murphy, the starting outside linebacker from last year, who was second on the team in sacks. He lost him for the season to torn ACL. It's kind of a big loss there. On their defensive line, it looks like they have Terrell McClain starting at defensive end, Stacey McGee at nose tackle. I think that they drafted Jonathan Allen out of Alabama as their 3-4 defensive end. I believe he's a 4-3-3 tech, but we'll see. They still have Ryan Kerrigan rushing the passer. They have one of the top corners. I think Josh Norman is a little overrated in my opinion, but he's a great corner. He does follow the number 1 around, so I like that. They have Sua Cravens, the do-it-all safety/linebacker hybrid type. I loved him coming out of college. I'm a USC fan, so I saw a lot of him. But yeah, I mean, defensively they are solid. Of course, in today's NFL, it's more of a tougher game to play defense. They also drafted Fabian Moreau out of UCLA. Somebody I would wish, as a Cowboy fan, I wish Cowboys would have drafted him, but he's a Redskin. So yeah, I mean, they have guys now. They have a team. I think they'll be right there in the mix for a wild card spot. And jumping into their schedule here, I will leave all NFC East games up for toss-ups, so no win-loss on those games. But yeah, let's jump into it. First game of the season, they start off against Philadelphia in Washington. Um, NFC East game, tough matchup, toss-up. Then they play in LA, the game I believe they will win against the Rams. Then they play versus Oakland on Sunday Night Football. I think in Washington. It is September, so it's not going to be cold, so I'm going to give that one to Oakland. Then they got to go to Kansas City on Monday night. I'm going to give that game to Kansas City. Kansas City is a tough team, very talented team. And to have to play Oakland and Kansas City back-to-back is a very tough challenge for any NFL team. The Oakland game probably will be very high scoring. Oakland's offense is high powered. Same with Washington's, in my opinion. Defense is not the best of defenses, but they will shut you down a little bit with their pass rush and their concept schemes to get a sack. Basically, is what the Raiders like to do. Then they have a bye week. Then they play San Francisco in Washington. I'll give that one to Washington. At Philadelphia on Monday night, toss up. Then they got to play Dallas, toss up. Then they got to go to Seattle, which I'm going to give that game to Seattle. Seattle actually has the defense to cover their receivers. And you have Richard Sherman on Terrell Pryor in that game. Big physical corner versus big physical receiver. Then they got to play Minnesota in Washington. I'll give that one to Washington. At New Orleans, playing in New Orleans is always tough because that crowd noise, Drew Brees, that could be an offensive showdown. I'm going to give that one to Washington. Then they play New York on Thursday. I believe that's a Thanksgiving game. Then they play Dallas the following week on a Thursday. I think that's just a regular Thursday game. Then they play the Chargers in LA. Let me give that one to Washington. Then they play Arizona. I'm going to give that one to Arizona. It's going to be in Washington. Then they play Denver in Washington. I'm going to give that one to Denver. And then they finish the season off against New York in New York. Based upon their schedule, I could see them going 9-7, 8-8. It'll be a tough road for them. At least they play a lot of their divisional games middle of the season. Like, actually, they're kind of mixed around. They don't really have the toughest of schedules as they get to play third place teams. Other than that, I could see them going 9-7, 8-8. They're either going to make the wild card or miss the playoffs entirely. The NFC East should have 2 teams make the playoffs. 3 teams, my bad. 3 teams make the playoffs. But we don't know yet. We got Arizona coming back. Somebody that they were talked about a lot. Carolina, Atlanta. It's the second wild card spot is going to be up for grabs. I do believe that the division winner in this division is going to be the Cowboys or the Giants. Washington has to keep themselves in position for a wild card, which means they might have to win 10 games, which is a stretch. It's very hard. But yeah, that's wrapping up the NFC East. I'm gonna do NFC North is next. I believe we'll do the NFC North probably sometime later today. Probably start off with the Bears, just because they are a team in a massive improvement. They need to improve immediately. But yeah, that'll do it. I'm wrapping it up here, Mr. Doodles On. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm out of here, guys. Thanks.